Tune in weekly and listen to the Collateral Damage podcast, where Michael Wilson and Maureen Cavanaugh host a variety of special guests to discuss topics and available services that will help you learn about the impact that substance use has on our lives, our families, and on our communities nationwide. Episodes and listening information can be found at www.cdpodcast.com. You can also search for Collateral Damage Podcast on your favorite listening platforms or watch previous and future episodes on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and share. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Collateral Damage. My name is Mike Wilson. I'm here with my co-host Maureen Cavanaugh in our new studio.
Yes, very cool.
Yeah. And today we have a special guest, Tricia Ragusa, who is an educator or teacher in recovery. Thank you for joining us, Trisha. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. Hi, guys.
Absolutely. So I understand that you're not anonymous about this, that you really like to be very open about your recovery. And I'm curious to hear a little bit about your story. And I was wondering if you could tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I came into recovery in 2015 after a decade-long struggle with opioid abuse. I was the type of person who struggled with substances that everything looked perfect. I was, the career looked perfect, my marriage looked perfect, the kids looked perfect, but the reality is it was all just crashing to pieces on the inside.
Right.
And finally, after, going in and out of attempting to get clean for a good decade, and hiding behind the shame and fear that comes with, sorry, the cat's back, about, with addiction, I decided, it was time to get sober because I was going to leave 4 little kids without a mother. I mean, I really was in very bad shape. So for me, it was either, get clean or let me die. Yeah. And I did just that. I went to the CARC Treatment Center in Warnersville, Pennsylvania, and nice. That was an incredible experience. But and thank God I've been, clean since I went there. And one of the reasons that I decided to be an educator and be not anonymous is because I hid for a very long time out of the fear of losing my teaching career. I remember being in treatment and being so scared to fill out the forms for FMLA and to not want to disclose what was really happening with me. But then I realized when I faced it and I moved forward that there was really nothing to fear. So my hope was, with being not anonymous, twofold. First of all, that I could encourage other educators who struggle to come forward and not have fear and to get help. And also, because I'm a high school teacher and, the opioid epidemic here on Long Island where I teach is so severe, I started to realize, well, I've been given all these amazing tools in recovery. I can bring these into the classroom and really affect change. Right. So that was the other reason I decided to be not anonymous. And that was kind of how it all came to me. Then I started writing in recovery and blogging in recovery and working on curriculum.
What's the name of your blog?
It's eucalyptus.com.
Okay.
So yeah.
Is it recovery based, recovery focused?
All recovery based. Nice. All the articles that I write are about recovery. I'm actually self-publishing a book in December about the inner child and recovery. Wow. Because I found, as we peel back the onion, we know it has very little to do with the substance itself. And, right. It's really the trauma. And
yeah, the substance is just a solution, exactly. Solution to the life's problem. So
right. So I wrote a book that's coming out in December.
Okay. What's the title?
It's going to be called, it's my
is it a
inner
working
child.
Title?
What? Is
it a working title or do you have it?
No, I have it.
Okay.
It's going to be called Calm Down Titula, which is, that's my inner child.
Okay.
And she's personified. It's written based on sessions with my Gestalt therapist where I learned to personify. Sometimes people personify their addiction. This is the personification of my inner child, and that's her name. That's what they called me as a kid. So that's where it came from. And the whole book is written on sessions with my Gestalt therapist, and it just, I connected the inner child to and tried to convey the importance of healing the inner child and, to stay sober. So.
Wow.
It's really
That's
interesting.
Exciting.
Tricia, as a teacher myself, I was interested right from the first time we started talking about how you made that kind of that leap, to come out as someone in recovery, as teaching in a school district? Because I understand that you might be afraid of the repercussions. I mean, there shouldn't be repercussions, right? But reality is reality.
Yeah.
And did you experience any of that?
You know, being in a high school, it's like high schools are notorious for the teachers being just as bad as the kids with gossip. So I definitely had my fair share of people talking about me. But for the most part, it really, I don't think my administration, I'm going to be honest, I don't think my administration or the district is really paying all that much attention to what I do. My colleagues know.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it has been a story that has been celebrated. People have been really supportive. And I cannot tell you, there goes my light, the amount of teachers that I have had that have come to me and asked me for help.
Yeah.
Right. That's what happens.
Right, exactly. With, their own struggles with substances.
Well, I think that's probably the most important thing. I mean, I know that being anonymous for somebody that is maybe a little nervous that everyone's going to find out is one thing, but for the folks of us that are out front, wear it like a badge, it's inspiring. It's inspiring to see other people overcome that fear. And with FMLA and stuff like that, I think a lot of people in your situation probably don't even know that it's better for them to come out up front and say, hey, I've got this issue, and go address it, and be like, hey, I was trying to hold it together, but I couldn't. I really need to go get some help. I need to take a few weeks off and go get some treatment and come back. That's actually, you have a better chance of keeping your job and your life than if you wait for someone to find out or catch you and then be like, okay, I guess I'll do it. Because if they catch you, you got a better chance of getting fired or having some real issues. So it's inspiring to see somebody like yourself and all the other people who are just like, you know what, I got this thing, I got to go take care of it, and to actually take the time and go away. So. And
I think to prove that, recovery is not, I think the point that a lot of people miss is that it's really just it's an invitation to like this much more incredible existence, in my opinion, because it's taken me on a path that I never could have dreamed of. I ran the New York City Marathon.
Congratulations.
I was not a runner, but I ran with Karen Runwell, which is they scholarship people to treatment. Yeah. So all the funds go to Karen, and to get getting people that can't afford treatment. And so I was lucky enough to run with them, and we had an incredible story. That their director of women's care, the woman that checked me into treatment, I hadn't seen her since, actually ended up being on my Runwell team. Oh, and wow. We ran the whole 26.2 together. So, well, let's be honest, it was run and walk, because by the end of the 14 miles, we were dying. So we were walking a bit, but we had the best day, and it was such an incredible story. And I thought, Karen actually put us on their Facebook page and stuff and shared it, because it was like, recovery takes you on this journey that you could never dream of.
I think we come into life with our own plan, and then obviously, our recovery and our connection with other people really just puts us maybe on a different path. I didn't think I'd be doing what I do today when I got well. This just became my path. And a lot of it is, you almost feel like an obligation to speak out and speak up and tell the people who are stuck that, you can get unstuck, that there's, it's worth it.
And you can thrive, you know, and,
exactly.
And then you get like wild things that happen to you too, because like, that you would never have dreamed of if you weren't on this path. My own sponsor, her name's Karina Delia. She's very not anonymous also, so I can use her name. She gives me permission to, and because she had an incredible story of abuse, teenage pregnancy, homelessness, addiction, you name it. And then 6 years sober, lost her leg in a motorcycle accident. Wow. And she went on after that with no bitterness in her spirit to sponsor over 200 women. Wow. And she came to me about a year ago. She was my sponsor, and she said, can you help me write my memoir? And it was just this incredible moment where, the teacher becomes the student, and we wrote her memoir together, and that's also coming out in December. It's The Truth Will Set You Free. So she's got an incredible story also. So these are the things that come in recovery that you would never imagine. Yeah. So
it's definitely, and I assume you see that as well. You're working with families too. So you're watching people, as their loved ones come out of their, I call it like the coma, you know what I mean? When you're active, you're in this like you're in this totally different world, and then all of a sudden you step out of it. I know you actually talked about the trying to hold everything together, like trying to keep the outer shell looking good so that nobody really challenged it and everybody thought everything was fine. Or more importantly, so that when, like with me, like when I woke up in the morning, I would look in the mirror and be like, you know what, I think this is good. And then I'd go about my business.
Right.
But once that starts to break down, it's like you just get stuck in this. It's like, is it ever going to get better than this? Could it ever be better than this? Like, is this as good as it gets? And when you get well and come out of that, even for the families, like I think I've just accepted this is the way my loved one is. And I don't know. It's just, it's amazing to see someone come out of that and then actually find a purpose in life, when previous to that, their only purpose was to get high and lie about it.
I think that you can say the same thing about families, though, because when they start speaking up and speaking out, and because as soon as you start to talk about it, people come out of the woodwork to ask you first. So, what did you do? What should I do? Do you know anything? Because there's this desperate need to connect with people, whether you're the person struggling or you're the family that's struggling. And talking about it makes it easier for other people to get help, and for other people to realize that there's an answer to this, and there's hope out there. And if we don't talk about it, nobody knows there's hope.
That's true.
So you're inspirational running the marathon too. I think that's amazing. I really do. It's funny. I just spoke at the high school where I taught when all this happened. It was like a year. I had left the year before, and I was very surprised that when my daughter's addiction became public, no one reached out. So, and that's what actually started Magnolia and started all the things that I'm doing now, because I felt like this is not right, that I needed to change this. But so that's why I was so curious about what kind of reaction you got in the school, what kind of reaction you got from parents, because I know that I got no reaction. No reaction at all. Although there was lots of talk, like you said, it was like the rumor mill was, but kids in the town know that I'm able to get them help, and they come to me. And when I spoke, there were very few parents, unfortunately. There were one or two teachers, and there was 70 kids.
Wow.
Which was kind of amazing, because, we think we're hiding something, or we think that that people don't know what's going on. They know what's going on. They're losing their older their older brothers and sisters are losing friends. They're seeing people go, and in too many cases, they're losing family members.
Right.
So being quiet and keeping quiet, and pretending like nothing's wrong, is not helpful for anybody.
I know it's not. And I'll tell you, the kids, I had written this curriculum that I've done with my 12th graders. I'm an English teacher, so I have to stick to a certain curriculum, but I wrote something removing the religiosity from the 12 steps, and like a character ed, DBT, kind of thing. And I started doing it with the kids, and their eyes just light up. Like, they say, Miss, like, this is what we should be learning in school. And I think too, like, oh, had I had these coping skills and this type of blueprint when I was a kid, maybe I wouldn't have gone down the road. And I look at my own kids and I say the same thing. I mean, they have tools that I never had. Not that we know what their journey is going to be, because we don't, but, I think that it's kind of cool to be able to give that to students, because they want it. They're into it,
Yeah.
Now, have you had an experience where, because you're so open about this, that people have come to you at the school, either students or other staff or anything like that, looking for help or support?
Staff, yes. Staff, I've had a few instances of that. Kids, I don't go up in front of my class and tell them the list of drugs I was doing. Obviously that's completely inappropriate.
Of course.
But I don't know how my administration would like that, but I stay away from that kind of stuff. But if I have kids that, the social workers let me know that there's something like that going on, I'll talk to them. And I figured out how to do it, and, be able to keep on the teacher hat and also the recovery hat, and kind of bridge those two worlds. So I think that I've definitely been able to help kids in that regard. And boy, do we need it in these high schools.
Yes.
Well, I do interventions, and for some reason, I'm in Massachusetts, but I spend a lot of time down in Long Island doing interventions. So you've got, there's a lot going on down there.
Yeah.
And so I assume, are you active in the community as well, like outside?
Yeah, I am. I actually work for, in addition to my teaching job, for one of the community counseling centers here. So they're going to have me start doing community outreach. Right now, it's really like a pilot program. I'm piloting as like a peer and a coach, and just trying to, reach people. I'm working with some teens, some adults, trying to, like there's just such a big gap between people coming out of treatment and trying to live in the real world. And that was me. I came out of rehab and I was by myself with 4 little kids, because my ex-husband had decided to move 3,000 miles away to California. That's how bad I was. Okay. He moved. I was with 4 little kids who at the time were 1, 3, 4, 5. So it was brutal. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I was newly sober. I remember just crying in the middle of my kitchen, like, how do I take care of these 4 little people if I can't even take care of me? So like, that's like what I'm really trying to help people with, is just that, like, that in between, because between treatment and life, there's a big hole. So
yeah, well, that's that when I was saying earlier about kind of coming out of that coma, that's how I felt whenever I came out. I came out at 21, and it was like I got sober at 21 because I came out of prison, and I was like, I came out and everyone's like, all right, so now you need to behave like a 21-year-old. I'm like, well, what's that look like? And then I got sober again at 25, and I'm like, so what's going on in my life? They're like, well, you have a kid. I'm like, oh, damn. And they're like, you have debt, and you've got a criminal record. I'm like, oh man, this is awful. And I came out of it at 30. They're like, oh, you have 2 kids, you've got more debt, you've created more criminal record for yourself. It's even harder to get a job now. And so every time I came out, not only did the people around me, and myself included, expect me to behave at that age appropriate level, but also to be able to handle life's responsibilities at that point, which I was not capable of doing. So, to your point, it's that gap treatment of coming out of the treatment bubble, sober, ready to take on the world, and being able to come out and take on the world sober, and the amount of time it takes to prepare yourself. And that's,
and recovery, I always say, requires adulting, and we don't like to adult. Like, those bills that are piled up, those, whatever, the legal issues, it was, for me, that was so overwhelming, because I had been, taking my bills and shoving them in a drawer for however many years. So when I came out of treatment, I was like, oh, I have to deal with this.
Got to open the bill drawer.
And I remember my therapist saying, well, you're ahead of the game, because a lot of people just throw them right in the garbage. So at least you were saving them.
The circular file.
I was filing my unpaid bills.
I shred them so I can save more of them in a bag.
Right.
So this, so your book, it sounds like that was, how long did it take you to put that together? Is that a combination of all your writings in the blog, or is this something separate you've been doing?
It's separate. I mean, I have a few things out on the blog on the inner child, and shame and worthiness, and, all the things that are underneath addiction. But this is, something I've been writing since, it's almost 2 years I've been putting this together. And I did it like very teacherish. So it's a book, and about my inner child and the way that I have worked to heal her, and then it's got a lot of exercises and workbook activities and stuff, just like I would teach a class. So I'm planning on putting that out into the world, probably December. I would say December or January.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Maybe, using it to do workshops and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know that you wrote a book.
I did.
And I wrote a book. I self-published like you're about to, and it was an exciting experience. I know you were fortunate enough to have a publisher, correct?
I was very lucky.
Yeah. And it's definitely an exciting experience. Once it's out there, it's a little nerve-wracking though, because then people, can critique it, give you feedback, and it's not always awesome. But yeah, it is nice to, I don't know about for you, but when I wrote my book, it was really good to just get it out of me. Because it was in there. I had it in there, and once I got it out, then I didn't have to think about it anymore.
Well, I remember I said to my therapist, I was like, well, probably no one will read it. She said, it doesn't matter. It's for you. This is your healing. This is
very cathartic.
It really is. And, we know something just moves me to write. So I just keep writing. And it just, even when I try not to, or I stop, I always start again. So it's definitely something I'm meant to do. And, even if it helps one, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
So now when you wrote your book, yours was kind of like revealing. Like you were putting your story out there with your daughter too, right?
It was horrifying.
Yeah.
That was not cathartic at all.
You were scared?
I felt like I needed to do it because I felt like there really were not a lot of parents speaking up about their child's journey in the middle of it, you know. And but when I remember when that first box of books got delivered, and I opened it up and it was sitting on my living room floor, and I looked down on it, down at it, all those books in there, knowing that like within a week they were going to hit the bookshelves, and thinking, oh my God, what did I do?
It's out there. You can't take it back.
No, you cannot take it back. And, you know, still to this day, people will come up to me and say, oh, how's Randy? Do I know you? Oh, no, I read the book.
You know so much about my life. Why do you know about my life?
It's kind of a weird experience.
Yeah.
It's coming out in paperback, too.
Oh, good.
On January 7th.
Nice.
So you can,
relaunch. And
it's got an afterward now, kind of updating everybody on what's going on in, you know, 2 years later.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's cool to see, like, you know, how recovery, even when it's the loved one that struggles, that it can take the whole family on a whole nother journey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like,
well,
it's just makes it so clear that's what it's for.
It definitely takes the whole family with it. It's called a family disease for a reason.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I know that you said yours is going to be, yours kind of informational, right?
Yeah, I would say, and it's narrative. It's definitely my story, anecdotal, definitely.
Yeah.
It's both.
Well, one of the things that, and you may get this down the road, but mine is it's kind of like a guide form. So it's very instructional as well. And I always find it interesting when a family brings it into my office and they bring my book into the office, and it's got a whole bunch of little like placeholders and notes and sticky stuff. And like, so in here you said, and I'm like, oh my God, yes, I did. Yes, I definitely did say that. So it's fun. And I hope that you're able to turn it into, you know, a workshop to help people push through that. Cause you're right. There is, you know, substance abuse is where we focus all our energy and all our effort because that's what's taking the life. Yeah. But in reality, you know, from the perspective of the struggling individual, it's just the solution. It's the only solution we have to the way we feel, whether it is, you know, trauma or childhood issues, or just basically, I can't live with who I am, whatever it is, the drugs are just the solution. Right. And we need a better solution.
We've got I always say it's whack-a-mole, right? So like we get with the cross addictions, we whack one down and we have to do the next one. Because I know for me, it went pills, then food, then shopping. Oh, and then you get the relationship addiction in there too, which can get all crazy. And that's one that I help more women with that than anything, the toxic relationship, you know? And it's all the same thing. It's all that we don't have a self and we're looking outside of ourselves for something to make us okay. And nothing can, except, you know, what's above and what's within.
Exactly.
And, and once we learn that, we're off to a whole incredible journey.
Yeah, it's just not enough not to drink or not to use drugs. You have to figure out all that backstory. And
it's actually harder.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I was struggling and I was using and stuff like that, everyone was like, get sober, your life will get better. And I was like, okay, you know, I believe that. So I would get sober, and it got harder. I was like, this is awful. I was like, this feels terrible. I feel everything. I'm like, I can't run from anything. Everything hurts. I don't know how to do anything. I was like, forget, I'm just going to go get high. I was like, I know how to do that better than this. This is crazy. And so it was, you know, sober without a solution is awful. It's the most painful thing ever. So, you know, getting sober is not the solution. It's getting sober and then creating a solution to what's happening inside of you. So like when I talk to families, like he or she just needs to stop doing drugs and be normal. I'm like, not really. You know, there's probably a better way to do that. And it's probably not just pretending that you don't have an illness. You know what I mean? Right.
So, and it's the same thing with the family. It's like they have to recover and they have to heal from all of this. Otherwise, they keep repeating the same patterns over and over again with this person that they've developed these patterns. And then they wonder why, you know, the person's doing really well. And then they come home after 60 or 90 days or 30 days or however many days they get. And they like within 30 seconds, everything's back to exactly the way it was before.
Exactly. Yep.
So.
Well, I got a question for you. So we always like to ask our guests, if there was one thing that you could change. I mean, this show is called Collateral Damage because we talk about all the, you know, like the impact substance abuse has on society, you know, like on our communities, on our schools, on our, you know, first responders and stuff like that. So, you know, if there was one thing you could change about the way we're handling it or the way people are dealing with it or talking about it, what would that be? What do you think?
Oh, I have many, but I would say, first of all, education. As
Okay.
an educator, I truly believe that if we started teaching coping skills, a blueprint for living that we give people that get into recovery, as early as second grade
Mm-hmm.
and all the way up, that would make a huge difference. If we could talk more about the inner child and the trauma that's behind it, I think that would make a huge difference. And also, of course, just to change the stigma, to have people understand that this is something that happens to all walks of life. And also to send a message that recovery is, possible, and, we do recover, and that there's always hope.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
huge. I think that's the most important part, is there's always hope, no matter what's
Absolutely.
happening. And
Yeah.
like, that's for the families and the individual.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, being that hopeless individual, feeling like there is no other way to deal with it. I mean, it's good to hear your story, and all the other people out there who are willing to share it, so that they know you can get out of this. Not only,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, not only can you get out, but you can thrive. Right.
Yeah. It's so true. So true.
Well, that's awesome. So are you going to, how would people be able to find out when your book comes out? Is there a website? Is it listed on your blog?
So I have been, doing my own, PR, because I haven't, eventually I may hire someone, we'll see. But for now, they can follow me on Instagram. It's Tricia.Ragusa.
Okay.
The other way is my website is eucalyptus, CALYPTUS.com. I'll put the book on my website, and my blog is there too, if anyone wants to check it out.
Okay.
And my name is Tricia Ragusa.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, what we'll do is we'll have all that here in the program notes. We'll make sure that people have access to that. And I can't wait to read your book.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks for coming on,
Very
Tricia.
welcome. Thank you so much. It was very nice to meet you.
You
Take
too.
care. Right.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.